Hey, what's up, Lit Fam Squad? Welcome to the College Info Geek podcast.
What? We're
the
hip.
internet's best resource
What up,
for
fellow
getting
kids?
ahead as a student, but a terrible resource for the correct strategy to win every sock and bopper match that you get into.
That's what they're doing these days, I think.
I'm pretty sure that's what the kids are doing.
I'm not out of touch. You're out of touch.
Yeah. Sock and boppers. Did you ever have a pair of sock and boppers?
My cousin did.
Okay, I never had a pair either.
They were pretty cool.
My dad was like, why would I buy you sock and boppers when we have actual boxing gloves? And by the way, you have to box your brother now.
Because one of them is less painful and more like a cartoon show.
This is true.
That's like There's an answer to that question.
There is an answer, but my dad never considered that answer.
Look, I punch its head right off. No challenge.
Yeah, it's true. Wait, sock and boppers weren't the little robots. Sock and boppers were the little inflatable.
Oh wait, yeah.
boxing
Okay, no,
gloves.
I had
actually hit your friends with
Rock'em
them.
Sock'em robots. Is
Yeah.
what I'm thinking of.
That's
lots
a
of
different
lots
thing.
of Sock'em
You just gotta sock
products,
'em,
I guess.
I guess. Anyway,
All right.
my name's Thomas Frank. Welcome to the College Info Geek podcast. I'm here as always with my friend Martin, and we got a train wreck on our hands already.
Yeah.
But that's what we always strive for.
That is what we
You
strive
start
for.
as a train wreck, and then you piece it back together, and you get it back on the rails.
Then you're impressed with how good of a job we did fixing it.
Exactly. Like, how is that thing actually making it down the rails? I don't know.
Yeah.
These people don't actually know how to
If
reassemble
you
a
start
locomotive.
with low expectations, you can easily
That's true.
exceed them. See,
Yeah.
the fact that it took me so long to say that word doesn't matter because we started out with low expectations.
That is true. Yeah. If you knock it out of the park right up front, you always have to knock it out of the park forever after that.
Pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway,
Today, we got 5 questions on the show. You guys know the drill, unless you're new listeners, in which case you probably don't know the drill, which is that on 5 questions episodes, we take 5 questions from Twitter, email, any kind of source where we actually pay attention and answer them in kind of like a lightning round style. So if you want to have your questions answered on a 5 questions episode or possibly turned into a full episode, because sometimes that happens as well, you can always tweet us. I'm Tom Frankly on Twitter. You are what? Yo Martholomew?
Yo Martholomew.
Pretty good Twitter handle. Or email thomas@collegeinfogeek.com. We save questions and usually cover them on 5 questions episodes if they're good questions and if we haven't already covered them on previous episodes. We've got quite a few 5 questions episodes at this point.
This is the 32nd.
That's what happens when you're on episode 270 of a podcast.
Yeah, and for most of that time it was weekly, so you can roughly estimate that this has been going on for quite a few years.
6 years.
Yeah, just a lot of them.
6.5
A whole
years.
lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of my life.
Yep.
That's
I was a whippersnapper back then. I was whipping, I was snapping.
whipping and snapping, you know? Anyway, let's get into the first question here. I'm heading off to college next fall. Is it too early to start a personal website for myself?
Speaking of whippersnappers, I
That's
remember
true.
the days.
I remember the days when I was heading off to college next fall.
Yeah.
I'm imagining that this person is heading off to college very soon then, because we just got this question in the summer. So I'm assuming next fall is like coming up.
Yeah.
In any case, the answer is no. It's never too early. But at what point is it going to offer you the most value? That's the question.
Yeah, if you've got something good to put on it, if you've got ideas, or even just putting it up there will help you think of ideas in the background, too early to one person means earlier than everybody else who thought too early. And earlier than everybody else is a great place to be.
Yeah. My friend Alex started his own blog when he was 14 years old. And kind of, I don't know if he had anything before that because his blog was about how to blog. It's just the kind of thing a 14-year-old would do. Yeah. Never blogged before. You know what I'm doing? I'm just going to start a blog about blogging. But I think he did it before it was a cliche, so I'm going to give him a pass.
That's fair.
And also, I learned a lot of my blogging techniques and skills from reading his blog. And when I found out that he was, I think, 15, around when I discovered his blog, I was like, wait, what? This kid is 15, and I'm learning about email marketing and CSS tricks and all kinds of cool content things from him. Dang. So yeah, he started this blog. It was called Blogushin at 14 years old. And when he was 18, he sold that for $20,000.
Pretty good deal.
Pretty darn
But
good
was it
deal.
too early for him to make $20,000?
And it might have been, actually.
Oh, no.
He
Well,
has-
that's a bad
He has told me
$20,000.
that he kind of blew the $20,000 and
That's
wasn't
true.
very responsible
That's
with it.
true. But that's
But-
like, that happens.
You know, you could not make $20,000 and then you never have the chance to blow it.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was utterly stupid with it. He has told me, you know, I could have invested it instead of buying a truck or something.
Yeah.
But he built a ton of relationships online. He built a ton of skills, web development, CSS, UX, UI, content development, all kinds of stuff. And now, I mean, ever since then, he's been running a successful WordPress theme design business.
Yeah.
So that was like the foundation of his career. And that's obviously a pretty out there example because most people looking to build a personal website are not looking to build a business out of it. They're looking to build a portfolio and a place to make connections, hopefully get hired, hopefully have, you know, somebody at a company see their work and to have it bolster their application. If you only want to do that, then obviously you could make a website later on in college or whenever you're starting to look for full-time jobs, if you just want it to be a portfolio. But I think people in whatever, you know, industry they're in can look a little bit more broadly and be a little bit more imaginative with what they could do. I think having your own online presence is basically just a way to utilize the power of the internet to help you make connections and make impressions, whether it's an audience, whether it is a potential colleague for a startup that you want to form, whether it's a job prospect, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And
A
for me,
scholarship community,
there were
committee.
personal benefits to having a personal website
Mm-hmm.
and like even just a Twitter, because at some point I started taking myself seriously online rather than just, you know, covering my face at all times in sarcastic jokes. At
yeah.
some point with a personal website and when I started the blog and when I started a Twitter, I was like, I'm going to talk about stuff I care about. And even if nobody had ever looked at any of those things, to me, it made me start considering, wait, who am I and what do I care about? How can I take myself seriously? And I don't know that there was too early a time for me to start thinking about what I care about.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, there's some in-between ground here. So you could pay for hosting, you could pay for, you know, a domain, all that kinds of stuff. You could totally customize your website, make it exactly what you want. That's what I like to do. But you could also have a really basic thing. And then you could move from the basic thing to a more customized thing over time. So the thing that I think that everyone should do the moment they think of it is to get a domain name.
Yeah.
It's like $10 a year, and once you want it, you have it. No one else can take it.
I have quite a few that I haven't even gotten to the projects for, but
That's true.
but they're my domain names now.
Yep. And I definitely have some domain names that have just been sitting, waiting in the wings for a while.
Yeah.
But at the very least, I would get the one for your name or something close to your name. ThomasJFrank.com is mine. MartinBay.me is yours. I think I also have TomFrankly.com. Or maybe it's not me. I don't remember which one that one is. But I wanted to make sure that no one could take that. Someone did take ThomasFrank.com when I was a wee lad.
Yep.
So get that. You can always point it towards like WordPress.com free website or something for the time being. And then once you get to the point where you don't want ads on your website or you want to be able to do more with it, then you could get more into it. And we have a tutorial on our website for that. It'll be in the show notes. Question 2 then. How can I develop mental toughness?
Mental push-ups.
Like psychic push-ups?
Yeah. And like
feel
bend
like-
spoons with your mind?
I feel like that's actually a thing in Psychonauts, if
Probably.
I'm not
Well,
incorrect.
and in Pokemon, the psychics always bend spoons. So I think that
That's
is
true.
probably one of the best exercises because all of them
probably
do
is.
it.
Yeah, that probably is the way to
Alakazam
develop.
has spoons. They must mean something.
That's true, and also in the Matrix,
That makes
there's
sense.
spoon bending.
So basically be a... Never mind. Okay, before I forget about real things, I'm about to move on. Spoon bending is the answer.
It's bent spoons. No, the way you develop mental toughness is by exposing yourself to uncomfortable situations. The mind is like a muscle, and the more you expose it to things where you have to deliberately accept a lack of comfort, the more readily able you are to accept it in the next time.
Yeah, discipline yourself and choose to do something that you know will pay off.
Mm-hmm.
But like maybe take cold showers, get the incredibly early military exercise class like you did,
Ooh, that was a good one.
like every
Yeah.
morning you got to wake up and be like, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And if you are developing mental toughness, the answer is because I'm going to, and I said I was going to, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to do, even if I hate it.
So the way that I like to do this is to basically create a situation where I'm forced to do the thing. Because everyone can say, take cold showers, wake up early, go to the gym every day, you'll be mentally tough. But tomorrow you're going to get that 6 a.m. alarm and you're going to be like, no.
Yeah,
I'm going
you
to
got to
bed.
get through the first
Going
few
back to
steps
bed.
first to get
I'm
your...
not taking this cold shower. Ugh. So I think of this concept as like training wheels for your brain, because your brain can't ride the bike on its own yet. So things like signing up for the ROTC fitness class, or going to Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping, where I believe they make you do like a $300 deposit, and if you don't show up so many times, they keep it forever.
Yeah.
Like things where there are external expectations, ideally where there's another person who's going to hold your feet to the fire, like a coach or something like that. But without that being an option, at least using something like a Beeminder or a habit tracker, or I don't know, like an online accountability partner, something like that.
Have somebody turn off your hot water before you take a shower.
There you go. Yeah. Something like that. Just find a way to set up systems that force you to do something that long term you want to do because it's healthy, but short term you don't want to do because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more able you become to do it without the need for help, essentially. So, what are some more things you could do? We talked about cold showers.
One of the biggest things that I did was control of my food, because back when you and our friend Clyde watched Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, and you guys were all like, I'm going to juice, and I'm going to get all these nutrients. My only take
Juice,
from that
bro.
was, I've never really eaten vegetables in my life. That's probably not good. Let's get into vegetables. I'm going to follow a vegan diet for this month. I'm not prepped for it at all, but I figure if the answer is starving or figuring out how to eat vegetables, I will figure it out.
Yeah.
So then I just made myself do that through like a month challenge. But since then, and I was trying to figure out, like, I had some illnesses in college and I was trying to figure out what was going on. So I've tried so many different diet things for 30 days that at any point now, you could just tell me, I mean, other than water, don't say water, but you could be like, Martin, you're not allowed to eat this for 30 days. And I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Throw it away. I don't have any problem just giving up something now because I've done it so many times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
It also expanded my culinary repertoire, so it's just kind of a fun idea anyway to mix it up.
Wasn't your diet basically like chicken nuggets and
Well, one time I took these
mayonnaise?
frozen like banquet chicken nuggets. I would microwave them in a cheap tortilla, and I would put like chili powder on them and mayonnaise. And that was dinner.
every night?
And the problem is that I thought that was a bad idea. So I was like, I got to take control of this. So I'm starving if I choose to only eat this. This is not allowed for a month.
Yeah.
Also, in all fairness, I picked February because not only was it so soon that I had no time to prepare, but it was the shortest month. So I was like, this is the easiest one. It's less scary. So if you're,
That's true.
it's just something that makes it less scary if you have to at first, even if it's something that's too hard to do for like a full month. I can't think of something I wouldn't do for a month, but I don't know. If you're going on vacation in a couple weeks, that doesn't mean you shouldn't start now for the 2 weeks before then or something.
Yeah. Another thing you could do is find a way to cut off your paths of least resistance. So I'm guessing you probably got rid of your banquet chicken nuggets and mayonnaise during that month.
Yeah.
If you're having trouble actually reading or actually practicing an instrument because you just always reach for the video game console, find a way to make it really inconvenient to do that. Like, give your consoles to your mom for a month or something and be like, I can't have this until next month.
Yeah. Take it all, put it in some closet somewhere that you gotta go through a bunch of effort to get to. Put a big sign inside that says you're failing yourself. That way, when you open the door trying to steal it back out, and you're like, you get a chance then, and that chance is when you determine whether you're building mental toughness.
Yeah.
You could choose to do whatever you want. I can't make you do it. But when you say, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do it. That's the point.
Yeah, and
That's
where
the
you
mental
build it.
push-up.
That is It's not bending a spoon.
No, but
It's
if you
making a
can
choice.
get to that point, though,
Then you should do it.
then you should be doing it because it's amazing.
That's true. And if
Do
you
something
can
with that.
literally push your body up off the ground using telekinetic energy,
Yeah, if you could figure it out, let me know.
that would be pretty cool.
Because then you're more mentally tough than me.
You could also do like I don't know if I would say do a meditation retreat. That's like a long time, but you could go do like a few hours. I think there's actually a place you can go here in Denver where you could do that.
Yeah, I actually went to the Zen Buddhist place here,
Mm-hmm.
and I did one of their Zen meditation seminars.
Yeah.
We were there for like 40 solid minutes after the explanations of stuff, and I've only meditated that long once, but the thing is you're there with a bunch of people also.
Yeah.
So the social pressure helps you say, maybe 20 minutes in at home, I would have been like, my legs are sore, I'm leaving. But I was just like, I'm going to feel so stupid if I interrupt all of these people meditating, including the literal Buddhist monks right now.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll just stay here. And that's like the training wheels. You got direct social pressure surrounding you in that case.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was really cool.
Yeah. So find ways to, I guess, take away your paths of least resistance, to have some sort of oversight. That be it a coach or a bunch of people around you who are also meditating, kind of social pressure situation, or systems that build that for you.
Yeah.
And then find a way to want it. You know, a
yeah,
lot
it's
of people
probably
are
going to
just
motivate you for something.
like people casually want things for themselves, but they're so comfortable that I think like there's this little voice that says you're probably never going to get that, and it doesn't actually matter that much, and you have to find a way to overcome that.
You're like sabotaging yourself on a lower level.
Yeah, because there's always a little voice that's like, all right, you're probably never actually going to finish the book that you're writing, but it's fine. You have a good job. You can come home every night. You have a girlfriend. It's fine. Like, it doesn't really matter. You have to find a way to defeat that voice.
Yeah, it's got to matter. Something's got to matter.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the answer is for you. It's something different for me. I mean, for me, it was like, for my book specifically, I literally put out, like, this book will be out in January. Kind of like committed myself to it. And then I had a 500 word per day goal that I had to meet. And I don't think I had any big consequences writing on that per day goal. It was just in Habitica. And at the time, Habitica was very, very motivating for me. And I found that recently, I'll get excited to get back on Habitica, but every time, like, the motivation to just see those numbers go up for me personally is not that great anymore. So there clearly is something else that has to be put in place. The same techniques that worked for you a few years ago may not work now. Or the same things that work for other people may not work for you.
Yeah. And when you're trying to do this is going to be like regular exercise in a way, in that you should push yourself, but there's a point at which if you push yourself too far, it will like snap back and you'll relapse and you won't do anything. Like if I try to do the most, I don't know any exercise, P90X, I don't know how intense that is. If I try to do the most intense weightlifting routine and the most intense biking routine and the most intense reading routine, it may seem mentally tough, but once I snap past the point I can't do it, I'll probably do none of those for like 2 months while I'm relapsing to be lazy.
Mm-hmm.
You got to push to like just a little bit past where you're comfortable so that you keep doing it's for long-term gains.
I remember when I was doing the ROTC fitness class, we had a running day. And we had several running days, but the first running day, we had gotten our 2 mile times. And so we had to run 2 miles and you got your time. And I think my 2 mile time was 14 minutes.
I don't think I could do that.
What, run 2 miles?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I couldn't run 2 miles.
It's time to step up then.
Oh no.
It's time for you to learn how to run 2 miles.
I'm a mental weakling.
You could run 2 miles.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
you might just like
I would
it'll
hate
be
it
like a
so
little
bad
trot.
though. I would hate it so bad though.
I don't like running, but I can still run 2 miles.
I've only run 1 mile twice.
Have you never gone out for a longer run?
No. I hate running.
I mean, I don't like running either, but
all right, I'll work on that.
mental toughness.
Will
Martin.
I actually work on that? We'll find out.
I don't know if you
in the
care
next
enough.
episode of Dragon Ball Z.
I don't know if you care enough. For me, it's like I would much rather go biking. So my big mental toughness goals are in cycling.
I would rather be told to bike 10 miles than to run 1.
50 miles.
You got to trade that for running 3. There's a conversion rate somewhere in there.
Would I rather ride 50 miles or run 3 miles? I think I would rather ride 50 miles.
Yeah, don't give me a harsh time limit, though. I don't think I'll make it without dying, so.
Oh, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't give you a harsh time limit. I would just say, like, do it.
Yeah.
Also, I wouldn't actually ask you to ride 50 miles because I don't think you've ever ridden 20. So I wouldn't just be like, boom, 50.
No, I think it would be unreasonable.
You got to work yourself up to it. Anyway, so I got 14 minutes for my 2-mile time. And based on everyone's mile times, they sorted you into different running groups. So there's group A, B, C, D, and E. And they put me into group B, which was composed mainly of guys that had like 13:30s, 13 minutes. So I think I was like right on the cusp of going into C or B. And they said, you're in B. And B was incredibly challenging for me. I was back of the pack. Couldn't keep up with the other people, but I could just barely keep up. Meaning, once we got to the end of our run, like maybe like 2 minutes before the end, I was probably 50 feet behind everyone else, but I could still see them. And I could still like reasonably keep up. I mean, I was feeling like I was going to die, but I was able to keep up to the point where I almost finished with the group. Had they put me in A, they would have just blazed past me. Like I would have been left in the dust, and eventually they would have gotten so far ahead that I would have been like, this is pointless. I'm going to quit.
Yeah, there's no motivation if you're so far from success that it's not going to happen.
And had they put me in C, it would have been too easy. So I'd just be like, this is not really helping me grow. So by putting me in B, it was like just enough of a challenge. I was losing, but I wasn't losing by too much. And I was like, I can keep up. I can finish this with my dignity intact. Yes, I'm back of the pack, but at least I'm still part of the pack.
Yeah.
I'm the straggler. I'm the Russell.
Oh, no.
But, at least I didn't die in a tar pit. So, yeah, find a way to challenge yourself to that degree where you can still see everyone else's back. They haven't, totally left you in the dust. This week's episode of our show is brought to you by our friends over at Skillshare, which is an excellent learning platform that can help you boost your skills in a ton of different areas that could both increase your career prospects and also make you a more creative professional overall. They have courses in tons of topics, including web development, graphic design, video production, video editing, digital animation, productivity, marketing, business skills, all kinds of stuff. There are more than 28,000 courses on their platform, and you can get unlimited access to them for just one low monthly subscription fee, including a class on building a productivity system, which I made just for you. It is called Productivity Masterclass, How to Build a Custom System That Works. And because we are talking about this in July, I know back to school is right around the corner, and I know something that helped me out immensely going into college as a freshman was going into my first day of classes already having a to-do list, a calendar, a well thought out email system, well thought out file management system, a well thought out note-taking system. All of these things were in place before I started my first day of classes. And what this meant was that I didn't have to think about getting organized when I already had homework on my plate and due dates to deal with and exams coming up. The system was in place already, and all I had to do was put things in it and keep it maintained. So if you want to make sure that your system is also well built, well maintained for the classes that are coming up, you might want to go take that class. And once you have taken it, once you're signed up and have your membership, again, you've got unlimited access to more than 28,000 other classes on the platform. And the best thing is that all these classes have a very active component. Every single class has a project that you can sink your teeth into, so you're learning actively while you watch the course material. And if you have questions or want to get feedback from other people, there's a discussion section in the classes as well where you can get feedback from the teacher as well as other students. So if you want to get started, you can actually get a 2-month free trial by going over to Skillshare.com/geek and signing up. Once again, Skillshare.com/geek to get a 2-month free trial of Skillshare with unlimited access to the platform and unlimited learning. Huge thanks, as always, goes out to Skillshare for sponsoring this episode and being a big supporter of our show. And another big thanks goes out to our second sponsor this week, which is Brilliant. Brilliant is an excellent platform for anyone wanting to improve their knowledge in the areas of math, science, and computer science. They have an amazing library of in-depth courses on topics like Python programming, statistics, probability, algebra, calculus, gravitational physics, classical mechanics, and a lot more. And every single one of their classes is built with the principle of active learning in mind. You are immediately thrown into challenging problems that really get you involved in the learning process. And not only does this keep you more interested while you are going through their course content, you're not just sitting back kind of passively and taking information, you're really getting into it, but it also makes you a better problem solver overall and better problem solver in your future career, which could help you advance up the ladder and gain new positions. Because when you spend time solving problems actively, having to draw from disparate fields and be creative about the way you're tackling problems, you get better at solving any kind of problem. You don't just become better at solving, say, physics problems, you get better at problem solving overall. And speaking of solving problems, in addition to that library of in-depth courses, Brilliant also has a feature called Daily Challenges, where every single day they publish new daily problems that you can sink your teeth into, and these are problems that exist across a wide variety of subjects. So not only can you make learning a daily habit by going into them and solving them in 5 or 10 minutes, but you can also expose yourself to new topics, new areas of science and math and computer science that you might have not explored before. Maybe you're kind of stuck over on physics, maybe you're kind of stuck over on algebra and you haven't really dealt with gravitational physics before. Maybe you haven't really dealt with probability before. Well, these daily challenges can really get you interested in new topics, can kind of broaden your horizons. And when you do get interested in something, you can again go into their library of courses and start learning about it more in depth. Now with Brilliant's free account, you get access to new daily challenges every single day, which helps you to again make learning a daily habit. And if you do want to upgrade to their premium subscription, you're going to get access to the entire archive of all daily challenges that have come out since the beginning, plus all those in-depth courses as well. So if you want to get started, then head over to brilliant.org/collegeinfogeek. And if you were one of the first 200 people to use that link and sign up, you're going to get 20% off that annual premium subscription. Once again, brilliant.org/collegeinfogeek. And huge thanks goes out again to Brilliant for sponsoring this episode and being a supporter of our show. Now let's get back into it. All right. This one's for you, Martin.
Yes.
Do you have any advice for someone trying to disconnect despite having a computer-centered job and hobbies that are all pretty much online? Are we condemned to this virtual playground forever?
Now, mostly I just really liked the wording in that last question. It's very dramatic.
Are we condemned to this virtual
Are
playground
we condemned?
forever?
I love it. No, we're not. That's the answer. So basically, I was at this point a lot. Most of my stuff is computer-centered. My job is computer-centered. Most of my hobbies are too. But that's also why it was incredibly freeing for me to pick back up piano and to get into photography and choose not to edit my photos, which would have turned photography into a computer skill again.
True.
So I rely entirely on like natural lighting, partially because that's artistically challenging for me, but partially because I don't want it to be a computer skill.
Yeah, if you were dinking around with color grading and stuff, like you'd probably be in Photoshop more than you'd
That
be
would be
taking
it would be
photos.
unhealthy for me. I think I would get to a very unhealthy point editing this. But so I would actively look for hobbies, I would say, that do not involve it. But also I make a point to pretty much go outside whenever I get a chance when I'm taking breaks. Even if it's just like I've decided I'm going to drink this water from the fridge, that I get this cool sparkling water. I'm going to drink it. You know what I'm also going to do? I'm going to drink it on the balcony instead. Or I'm going to drink it while taking a walk around the neighborhood. Or I'm going to take any small excuse I have to get away from the computer and the video games and the electronics. Because if you have to work on them, and you know, it would be a position of privilege to just say, throw your computer out. You'll never need it. Be a guru. But if you still need it, you can spend a decent portion of your day without it. Or if you can't, even maybe on weekends or days off, you're like, I'm going to go hiking. Or I'm going to go spend a significant amount of time going on a picnic if you're less active, but you still want to go outside. You just have to find some way to do it. But especially finding other hobbies that take you away from it. That way you're kind of accidentally away from the electronics when you're into your new hobby.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is just exploring new hobbies. Because I know you've been there. I've been there. You're really into video games and you're like, what else would I do with my free time?
Yeah.
I remember, being really into video games earlier in my life and thinking like, what did people do in the olden days? Like
They turned to
Before
butter.
video games were invented, was everyone just bored all the time? Like, what do they do? And of course, that's a ridiculous thought to have. People had fun before the invention of mass media and TVs and radios and all that. They sat around and talked to each other. They went for hikes. They played basketball. They played sports. I don't know, bowling's been around since the days of the ancient Egyptians. People have found ways to entertain themselves. It's just that video games are designed to be so gripping. And we did a whole episode on, video game tactics that keep people motivated to play them, that you can start to think like, this is the most fun thing I can think of. What else would I do?
Yeah.
But yeah. Once you start checking out some new hobbies, you realize like, wow, there's actually a lot to this hobby. It seemed kind of boring on the surface compared to this cool video game over here, but it's actually very involved and there's a lot to it.
Well, and that's really the problem. Like, the video games are designed to give you that reward as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But the other hobbies, like photography, that took a little bit before I could figure out if I was really into it.
I think, a lot of hobbies that aren't video games,
you got to push
they
through
hide,
the entry level.
Like, they hide their nuance under the surface.
I mean,
Photography is a
photography
great one.
could easily seem like, what do you just, everybody can point and click and buy a camera and do. It's not that exciting.
Mm-hmm. But then you start thinking like rule of thirds, lighting, golden hour, exposure triangle, composition. There's so many things.
Yeah, you try to... The first thing that got me really interested in macro, where I like to take the really close-up insect photos, is that when I was walking around with Ashley's, one of her old point-and-shoot cameras, because I was just like, well, I'm not going to buy a camera first. I'm going to try this on this lesser capable one.
Yeah.
But there was this little ladybug and an aphid, and I was like, I really want to take a photo of this, because the ladybug was missing a wing. Basically, it looks like they just had a war and the ladybug won. But I can't get it to focus. Why can't it be in focus? Why do I have to be this so far back? And then I realized photography isn't just going out there and clicking stuff. There are very physical limits.
Yeah.
Depending on your lens, depending on what you're doing, and depending on the lighting. And you've got to figure out, how do I actually solve that? And until you run into a photo you wanted, but you failed at, it's hard to see that there is a lot going on under there.
Yeah. Or for my case, probably my biggest hobby is guitar. I'm playing music in general. And I was just thinking today about all the combinations of sounds that I can get with the pedals I'm using. It's like mind-boggling. There's infinite things I could learn how to do. And, again, like when you're playing a video game, I think a lot of the complexity and the interesting elements of it are just kind of like presented to you. And with physical hobbies, you have to dig a bit, but that complexity is there.
Yeah, like chess doesn't seem fun until you start getting into what's behind the strategy. Mm-hmm. Because before that point, you're just like, well, okay, I just move stuff and then I lose. That's the game, right? It's not. Yeah. It's not great.
Yeah. If you're playing Overwatch, everyone's like, here's the meta. We'll just tell you. Chess, you have to go discover it.
Yeah.
So go discover new hobbies. And if you don't know how to, go to meetup.com and sign up for some meetups.
Yeah. And if it's a little weird at first, that's no problem. I was probably too early in taking my adult classes when I went to take photography classes for the first time because everybody else in there was decades older than me. And I was like the only person who was like, I wasn't finished learning yet. I just got out of college, but I was like, I want to take this. Mm-hmm. So I was definitely age-wise isolated, but don't let that discourage you. It's cool to want to learn that soon again. Or that soon in general, because I do not regret taking those at all. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten much farther with my photography from classes that I initially felt weird and isolated in than I ever would have thought if I'd just been like, oh, this isn't the right vibe for me. I'm leaving. Mm-hmm.
And I think it might also be useful to define checkpoints for yourself. Because, again, the great thing about connected hobbies, like video games, all that kind of stuff, like it sort of hand holds you a little bit. Video games like, hey, you beat this level. You leveled up. You got this piece of gear. Great job.
Yeah, the Here's small wins part of the of the podcast episode.
For photography, it's like, where's the progress? Well, you got to define it for yourself.
Yeah.
And then like I can go look at your Instagram and see definite progress, but maybe you didn't see it when you were doing it. Yeah. And I think for you it was like 30-day challenge of getting one out every day. That was like the first thing, but.
Yeah, and then it turned into like 6 months instead.
Mm-hmm. And now I bet you there's probably other things that you're using as kind of markers for progress. Like I know right now you're trying to get a really cool balcony photo, which is totally different than all the macro stuff you've done before.
It's very different.
So that's like a totally different journey. It's like a cool expansion of your talent.
Yeah, we shall see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see it. All right. Question number 4. How do you know when it's the right time to quit a job? This is the hardest question here.
Whatever time, like, shows your boss who's boss the best. Just so you can be like, oh, yeah, I quit. Like the most argumentative time. That's my advice.
It's right before the boss and the police come into the office to escort you off the premises and fire you. Right before that, you got to yell, I quit.
Then you're safe.
You got to get the
You've
last word.
You've got immunity then.
Yep.
I think.
I quit. I was embezzling money, but I quit. So.
Yeah, but this is a difficult question because
yeah,
quitting a job comes with a lot of pressures. Obviously, finding a job is stressful, especially if you're trying to pivot into a different career. Money is obviously a huge pressure here.
Yeah.
I had to quit my job when I injured my hands, and that was a terribly hard decision because I was like, but this is how I'm making money to pay for medical costs.
Yeah.
So, I couldn't just say I quit right now. There's clearly thought behind it.
So there are a few factors you have to consider. Factor number 1, have I stopped growing in this job? Am I completely stagnant? Factor number 2, what sort of opportunities do I have if I quit this? Like, will I be able to find something relatively quickly? Factor number 3, what is the financial reality? Because if you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, it's harder to justify leaving the job that is paying your expenses than if you have $50,000 in the bank, your monthly expenses are $2,000. Like, you could just chill for 2 years if you needed to.
Yeah, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, the answer to the question is when you've been given a different one. Mm-hmm. So, that could be the answer depending.
And what is your ability to cut back on your life's expenses if you needed to quit for some reason? The guy I know, Lewis Howes, who is very well known now, obviously has millions of dollars. I remember him telling his story at a conference I was at where I think he was like a semi-pro football player or something like that. I don't know if he was in the NFL, but he was a pro athlete. Got injured, and because of his injury, that ruined his pro career forever, or ended it. And he said, like, for 9 months, he slept on his sister's couch because he just didn't have money. But during those 9 months, he started building this business, connecting people on LinkedIn, eventually started doing networking events in cities based on LinkedIn marketing, started charging for those, and then kind of like built a whole business off of that. And that's how he got started. So for him, and it was kind of like forced quitting because when you're a pro athlete, if you get seriously injured, you're just kind of done. You don't really have the choice to say whether or not you're quitting. You're just like no longer viable. He was able to massively reduce his expenses by going and living with his sister, And it's harder to say like, oh yeah, if you just don't like your job, you should do that and phone your brother up and be like, hey, can I sleep on your couch because I just don't like my job? Maybe you should try to save up a bit. Or maybe your brother wouldn't care. I don't know.
Yeah.
Depends. But I think it really comes down to those factors. Am I growing? Am I super burned out? Do I hate this? Am I, not going anywhere with it? Who depends on me? What's my financial reality right now? And what's the likelihood that I'm going to be able to get something else going fairly soon if I quit this job?
Yeah. If I was going to quit, even to just pivot into some other idea I wanted to do, I wouldn't quit until I at least had a plan for how I was going to spend the time afterward to position me to get into the new thing.
Yeah.
That way you don't just like spend the first month like, I'll get around to it next month. This month, video game month. I'm catching up on my Marios.
This is my fun month.
The next month, I'll do this stuff. Like that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a bad time to quit. You weren't ready to quit yet. Get the plan first so that you don't just kind of stagnate in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're going to quit, you have to start preparing to quit. And then depending on how you prepare to quit, you have to think about the very real possibility that your current job will find out you're trying to quit and fire you before you do.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Don't put it on Twitter thinking about quitting.
Well, I mean, I know that it's like some companies literally pay for software that scans the internet constantly for information about all their employees to see, like, are they on LinkedIn? Are they being active on LinkedIn? Are they going to apply for other jobs?
Wow.
And I don't say this to scare, well, maybe I do say this to scare people, because like the reality is some companies do that. And you know what? As much as you might say they're jerks for that, it's like, it's also understandable. It's kind of in their interest to make sure they're retaining their employees. And if they're not, they're starting to look for replacements, instead of getting blindsided.
Yeah.
But you just got to be aware of the fact that if you're starting to actively look for jobs, actively apply, actively network on LinkedIn, like, you might get found out. And I think that a good company would recognize that, like a responsible company that cares about their employees might recognize that and confront you and be like, okay, is there anything we can do to make this job better for you? Or maybe they're going to say, like, you're not actually that good of an employee. It depends on, are you valuable to them?
Yeah.
But if they find you valuable and they're a responsible company, ideally they would confront that, do the hard thing, but then ask, like, is there something we can do to make this a better work environment for you? Like, do you need a raise? Do you need a different position? Or, is it actually in your best interest to move on? And if so, maybe we can help you. But some companies aren't like that. Some companies are ruthless and they're just like, oh, you aren't showing loyalty. Goodbye. So,
well,
be prepared.
As long as you had your plan, that'll be okay.
Sometimes maybe be sneaky about it. It's just it's reality of the situation.
Wear like a thing over your eyes.
Yeah, you need to wear like in your LinkedIn profile picture, be wearing a bandit mask so they don't know it's you.
They'll never notice. And you'll definitely get hired.
That's true. My Venmo picture is me wearing your highwayman mask.
Good.
I just thought that would be a good profile picture for an app where people give me money.
Yeah. Very trustworthy.
Anyway, hopefully that clears things up a little bit for anybody thinking about quitting a job. One more thing about that one. I forgot to mention one additional factor, which was quite important for me. Are you actually contributing to the company? And this was the reason that I quit the web development department at Iowa State, because I just knew, like, everyone else there knew what they needed to know, and I was several years behind. I could just tell, like, if I stay here, I'm only going to be able to do like these tiny maintenance tasks, and unfortunately, I'm just not at the level where I can realistically catch up to where all the other programmers are to be useful and to do interesting projects. So I made the call to leave, both for myself but also for them.
Yeah. It's weird how I did like the exact same thing, but with a different job, also web developing on campus.
Yeah. Sometimes they hire you. Sometimes, like, it's not you being dishonest. It's not them being dishonest. It's just like you both legitimately think you're a good fit, and then you realize, actually, I'm not. Crap.
Yeah.
And at that point, both you and me were in the position to quit because we were still students.
Yeah, it made it a little easier.
Like the hugest thing in the world. But, that was the thing for me. It was a consideration. All right, last question. How does one prepare for an oral exam? I study what amounts to lit and classics in the U.S., but most of my exams are in oral form with broad or detailed questions depending on the professor.
So the main thing that I took from this is that obviously one of the differences is that it's not written, it's an oral exam. But the other difference here is that the questions might be more broad or detailed, and they're not multiple choice questions necessarily. Yeah. It sounds like maybe it's more of a, do you fully understand this topic, rather than did you memorize stuff from the study guide? In a situation like this, one, if you're scared of the speaking part, I mean, obviously there's a lot of, we've got some anxiety stuff to talk. We've got videos and podcasts and articles on that. We can find some of those and link to them and get practice with that sort of a thing. But for understanding the topics better, I think it would be a good idea to obviously actually do your readings, but maybe try to do something that I've done a few times to practice language, which is just take your webcam or your phone, I guess. Now a phone would be a really easy way to do this. Just record yourself explaining the topic as if you were explaining it to a friend, or explain it to a friend. But try to record it. That way you can play it back and then hear, okay, actually what I just said there was a jumbly mess. And if that's true, you may not fully understand that section if you can't express it very well. And even if you do understand it and you can't express it well, you're still not going to get the points because the teacher needs you to express it well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to think through how you're going to answer something, and your first go at it is a mess.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to practice. Like multiple choice, it's largely just, what, can you memorize these facts? But for truly understanding in depth something, you're going to want to go over it several times and be able to explain it to yourself, to someone else, in simple language and in the language using the correct vocabulary, depending on your audience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even for videos, I do this a lot. I'll pull my phone out and I'll just selfie record myself either going over the script or just brain dumping ideas so I can make a script later on. And obviously, it's never the footage I use, but sometimes it's needed to get the actual footage on the camera.
Yeah.
It's just a preliminary, lower pressure way to practice delivering that information. Because it's different when you're writing, right? When you're writing, you can sit there for as long as the time limit allows and kind of piece together what you're going to say. It's like a very, asynchronous process. You can take an hour to write something that would take 5 minutes to read.
And you don't need to know it. You could be pulling it all actively from the resources and then just forget it the second you write it down.
Or, even in an exam, right? You have to remember it, but it's still, again, asynchronous. But during an oral exam, it's not. Like, they are listening to you in real time. So you need to know the material well enough to deliver it in real time.
Yeah, and I think one thing, so also the way I read when reading a foreign language might be helpful here, because the first time, if I read a page of Spanish, I'll read a page or two, write down the vocabulary or the stuff I'm curious about, like, wait, what happened there? Something happened here and I didn't understand it. But I'll read it through, get familiar with all the vocabulary I'm missing, then read it again. And the second time, it makes so much sense. I'm reading for, like, fluidity and fluency. Suddenly it makes sense. So if you do the same thing, say you're reading about, like, Roman mythology or something, then you read the first time, maybe make some notes like, that might be important later. Is that guy important? Not sure. We'll find out. And then maybe some questions, like, what did they do? Why was this brought up, and how do they connect with that guy I read about earlier? They said something and it might have connected. Then read through it a second time and you can put the pieces together now that you're more familiar with the topic. Because some of the higher level ideas, if you don't have a base level of, like, if you don't understand how to put the small Legos together, you know how they work, how are you going to build a giant sculpture? You need, first, you're doing all this weird vocabulary and these philosophical concepts and linguistic terms, and you need to understand the actual terms, but then you need to go back through to get the big ideas that the terms make.
Yep. Yeah, good point. All right. I think that does it.
Did we pass our oral exam?
I think we did.
Okay, cool. That's good.
And I just realized that I need to drink more water today. I have not had a whole lot of water today. Feeling a little dehydrated.
Well, don't do that.
Yeah, I want to get hydrated. So I'm going to wrap this podcast up and get some water. If you want to find the show notes for this episode, you can go over to cigpodcast.com/270. Right?
I think so.
Episode 270. Yeah. It's a lot of episodes.
That's really high.
You can also go to cigpodcast.com. No slashes, no numbers if you want to subscribe to this podcast. So if you are just listening to it in the browser or listening to it through your neighbor's window, maybe you should not stalk your neighbor's house so closely. And also go to cigpodcast.com where you can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or YouTube. And if you want to support this show, a great way to do so, if you have an Apple device or if you have iTunes on your computer, is to go over to Apple Podcasts and write us a rating and give us a 5-star review. We always appreciate those. They give us great feedback on what we're doing. And also it helps bump the podcast up the rankings over on Apple Podcasts. Beyond that, if you want to just share this podcast with a friend, maybe they will start listening to it and become a fan as well. But as always, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you in the next episode. Stay cute.